Lexus is synonymous with the terms luxury and reliability. And what you get with the combination of both characteristics is a great all-around daily driver that gives you the comfort that you expect to receive in this price range, fun driving characteristics, but also more importantly, that retention of value. And that is most certainly on the minds of many buyers today in 2022. What Lexus has been able to accomplish over the last 20 to 30 years is pretty remarkable. Because if you do talk to some buyers or listen to a lot of journalists out there, they're going to tell you, you gotta go Audi, you gotta go BMW, you gotta go Mercedes-Benz. But as we're going to find out in this video, that might not be the case. Today we're taking a look at the 2022 Lexus IS 350, a car that finds itself in a very competitive segment where you do have new rivals such as the Alfa Romeo Giulia or Genesis G70, and now I think we can throw in the Acura TLX into the conversation. But for buyers who are looking to upgrade from the Toyota Camry or Honda Accord, the Lexus IS has always been that go-to option, a car that is reputable, that is reliable, that is comfortable, and also fun to drive. And that's why I am here. We're going to take a good long look at the Lexus IS 350, see how it compares to other luxury sedans in this market, and also see why, if you are looking for a comfortable daily driver, then maybe taking a look at the IS 350 might be a great decision. Now before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Herb Chambers Lexus of Sharon in Sharon, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Lexus inventory. I also want to thank Rene for his help in setting this review up today, and I'll leave his contact information below, so if you are looking at buying a new Lexus or leasing a new Lexus, definitely contact him. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. When cross-shopping vehicles in the compact luxury sedan market, it's important to identify the differences, the driving and handling characteristics, and overall interior comfort, as no two cars really are alike in this segment. While the Germans may prioritize sportiness and an excessive amount of technology, brands like Lexus take a far different approach, where refinement, a Grand Tourer-like on-road demeanor, and sensible luxury appeal to a wide range of consumers. The IS 350 is the sweet spot for the sedan, as a larger powertrain and more aggressive looks speaks to enthusiastic drivers. But the question that remains at the beginning of 2022 is whether Lexus's smallest and most affordable car can hold its own in this crowded segment. Starting off with pricing, the Lexus IS 350 F Sport comes in with a base price of just over $46,000. But if you prefer going with rear-wheel drive, you'll save $2,000 right off the bat. Lexus is known to undercut the competition, and with the luxury compact sports sedan market being as competitive as it is, even with crossovers at the height of their popularity, pricing is going to be key, especially if you're looking to stick around the $50,000 mark. Where the IS 350 slots into this market isn't among other inline-6 or V6 powered cars like the BMW M340i or Mercedes-Benz C483, as you're looking at over a $5,000 difference. And that's where Lexus always falls short in comparisons, as it's not going to be on par in terms of being dynamic and performance-focused, despite having a 3.5-liter V6. When cross-shopped with luxury sedans, that's where the IS 350 shows its worth, as its comfortable on-road demeanor and hint of athleticism gives buyers an alternative to an A4 or C300. For exterior dimensions, the IS 350 will be slightly smaller than the BMW 330i, Audi A4, and Volvo S60, but is marginally longer than the Genesis G70. And despite being thrown in the conversation with the Acura TLX, keep in mind that its crosstown rival is closer to being the size of a BMW 5 Series, which might be a bigger car than what you're currently looking for. Where Lexus drew a lot of attention was with a new road presence that better fits in with the current direction the brand is heading in, as appearance-wise they're beginning to distance themselves from being known as the more luxurious Toyota. First seen on the 2021 model, the IS 350 now looks upscale, classy, and aggressive, and all it took were minor tweaks for the front fascia, as the LED headlights have been redesigned and the body lines are pronounced, where the sedan appears to be in motion even when parked. Receiving the F-Sport treatment, the gloss black grille and contrasting accents brings a sporty appeal. And in fact, the IS, thanks to its streamlined looks, resembles the RC when it comes to how the front end has been shaped. Moving over to the side profile, the 350 will be sitting on 19-inch F-Sport staggered width wheels, and surprisingly, the larger tire size didn't affect overall ride quality, as I expected to feel the imperfections in the road, but since this model didn't have the adaptive suspension, it's possible I was spared from experiencing a harsher ride. You'll have two-tone side mirrors with turn signal indicators, to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then coming around to the back, Lexus finished off this car with a sophisticated and quite honestly premium rear fascia that's not typically seen in this segment, where the LED light bar runs the entire length of the rear end and flows seamlessly into the taillights. The attention to detail and the minor cosmetic upgrades makes a huge difference for a car that's built on an almost 10-year-old platform. And as we saw up front, the C-pillars have a sportback-like design, once again showing a relation to the RC. The subtle deck lid spoiler, dual exhaust outlets, and contrasting rear diffuser cap off a memorable road presence. And while Lexus is trying to balance both the luxury and sporty persona, the IS is quite the compelling option if you're searching for a car that looks more expensive than it really is. Under the hood, the IS 350 is powered by a 3.5-liter V6 engine that puts out 311 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque. And since this model is equipped with all-wheel drive, you will have a 6-speed automatic transmission. Unlike competitors who use the same transmission regardless of drivetrains, Lexus tends to guide buyers into opting for rear-wheel drive by offering incentives, such as the 8-speed automatic, which will pair very nicely with this V6, but you'll also have a limited slip rear differential. For a more engaging driving experience, the $3,800 dynamic handling package that comes with a sports tune suspension will heighten the cornering ability of the IS 350. In straight line accelerations, you're looking at right around 5.6 seconds, which is in line with most luxury sedans in this specific price range. For fuel economy, you're looking at right around 20 miles per gallon in the city, and 28 miles per gallon on the highway. Stepping inside, you're greeted by heated and ventilated F-Sport bolstered seats for both the driver and passenger. And while the upholstery is not genuine leather, the amount of comfort you experience is impressive. The seat positioning is perfect for drivers who want to feel a connection to the car they own. And for longer cruises, the support and firmness inspire confidence when cornering on back roads. Further enhancing the driving environment is the dashboard and center console that wrap around you to provide a sense of refinement and security, as you do feel that you're in a fighter jet-like cockpit. Technology-wise, the IS 350 retains its traditional design, where there will be a digital gauge cluster that showcases a good amount of information. And objectively speaking, this sedan could use a full digital display. However, as currently designed, it's more eye-catching than some competitors. Then moving over to the infotainment system, you'll have a touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility. You can opt for onboard navigation and the upgraded 17-speaker Mark Levinson surround sound system to amplify the audio of your favorite music. If you're familiar with the IS, you'll notice that the head unit has been pushed further out to be within arm's reach, and allow you to exclusively use the touchscreen rather than the trackpad on the center console. While not the most user-friendly, impulses let you know when you hover over an icon, and since this head unit isn't too in-depth, it will become second nature to use after a few minutes. On our model today, we have a rear backup camera with trajectory to go along with intuitive parking assist with auto braking, and rear cross-traffic braking as part of the $565 package. Going one step further, you can opt for a top view camera to help aid in parking. Then as we continue on, you'll have physical buttons and dials for the climate control settings and volume and tuning knobs. And moving down towards the center console, the buttons for your 3-level heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, and drive mode selector can all be found here for easy access. For the center storage compartment, you'll have enough room for smaller items such as a smartphone. And there will be 2 USB inputs and a 12-volt outlet conveniently placed here. Finally, to round out the front seating area, above will be a power moonroof to let in some natural light to the interior. Now for passengers in the back, we're going to start off on the driver's side, and this seat is adjusted to someone of my height, around 5'5", and I have a good amount of legroom to work with here. Obviously, I'm not the tallest person out there, but I do believe that if you're an average-sized adult and you have smaller kids in the second row, everyone should be comfortable. Now, of course, with this being a sedan, you will have to worry about headroom. And with the IS, which you are going to notice for the rear third of this car, it has more of a sloping roofline, and that's going to take away from that headroom. So I do think that if you're on the height of 5'10" and above, you will be hitting your head on the headliner. So keep all this in mind. I do think that if you're looking for something a little more family friendly, you might want to go with the NX or the RX. Now, moving on to the center seat, the center hump is very aggressive, and that is going to affect legroom and shoulder room. And as I feel for a lot of sedans in this market, you're just not going to be able to fit a third person back here. In fact, the way the Lexus is shaped, the way it drives, and the way it's designed, it feels more like a Grand Tourer in here. It has very Grand Tourer-like characteristics, and when you look at Grand Tourers, you're just not going to be able to fit a third person. So I do think that if you are looking for more space in the second row, you might have to look to upgrade in the Lexus lineup to a bigger sedan. I just think this might be a bit of a squeeze for a lot of passengers. Then on the passenger side, I adjusted the seat further back. It's also somewhat on a recline, and this is where I'm feeling a bit claustrophobic. So I do think that when it comes to the practicality aspect and trying to accommodate taller passengers, it is going to be a bit of a squeeze, but I do think that for smaller kids and for smaller families, this should do just fine. Also back here, you will have 2 rear air vents, but there's no heated seats on this model or a 12-volt outlet or even USB inputs, but you will have a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Now, taking a quick look at the rear cargo area, you will have right around 10.8 cubic feet of rear cargo space, which is not class leading by any means, but that's because the Lexus IS is actually one of the smaller cars in this market. It's actually more comparable with the G70 rather than the 330i. But back here, I was able to fit all my camera gear on top of the fact that we have a box and the mats. So I do believe that if you are going on a road trip with a significant other, you should be able to fit 2, 3, possibly a 4th bag of luggage because of how wide this cargo area is. So when you look at 10.8, that might be a bit deceptive because I do think you'll be able to fit everything that you have with you on a daily basis or for daily tasks. So grocery shopping should be no problem, and also you will be able to fit some smaller items back here. And then once you're done, just use the handle on the trunk, and we're ready to set off on the test drive. All right, so we are now behind the wheel of the Lexus IS 350. We filmed a lot of cars in this particular segment, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it matches up with, say, an Alfa Romeo Giulia or an Infiniti Q50S, or maybe even an Acura TLX. So we are starting off in sport mode. Pretty nice, not the quickest in this market or segment. Now, we're going to get into a lot of this when it comes to the performance for the price, because the Lexus IS 350, as I've already talked about, is that tweener. It's not necessarily a performance sedan that is reserved for the IS 500, but I still like the fact that this is a V6, it has a nice sound to it, and actually it has a decent pickup. Now, obviously, if you are more of an enthusiast, you're going to want to go with the rear-wheel drive. I think it's going to be a little bit more of an engaging driving experience for you, especially if you want to have more of a fun factor behind the wheel. But I think for a lot of buyers who are looking for a luxury sedan that's also reliable, This car is perfect because it's very comfortable on the inside. What I love is the seating position in this car. It has more of a grand touring style to it, especially with the seats. Now, they do provide a good amount of bolstering. I do feel very secure behind the wheel here, but it's the dashboard layout as well. I feel like I'm in a sports car, but it just feels natural being behind the wheel. It feels right. And it's very rare to find a lot of cars these days that actually feel like that behind the wheel. Now, one thing that I was not expecting here with the Lexus IS 350 is that the driving environment is pretty welcoming, and actually it's elevating my driving experience today being behind the wheel, because even though this car has been built on the same platform for many years, and in some ways it is showing its age because you don't have all the technology that we see in some competitors, I love the fact that you have soft-touch padding everywhere for your armrests. Also, a leather-wrapped steering wheel feels really nice in the hands, aggressive 10 and 2 positions. But also, I like the layout as well. I think a lot of buyers that are specifically looking at purchasing a Lexus are going to love the fact you still have physical buttons for your climate control settings, but also the volume and tuning as well. Also, another thing too, I think a lot of people who are traditionally looking at buying a Japanese sports sedan, they're gonna love the traditional layout as well, even with this new touchscreen. Now, it's not the most in-depth, of course. You can opt for onboard navigation, but I think that for people who have purchased this car in the past, they're gonna find themselves right at home. Now, when it comes to the vision that you have here to work with behind the wheel of the IS 350, you have a nice panoramic view in front of you. Now, the IS does have a extended front hood, so keep that in mind. Now, it's not going to affect vision at all that's immediately in front of you, but you are going to notice that compared to some of the European competitors. A-pillars are not very aggressive at all, so you don't need to worry about blind spots in that regard. Side mirrors are a bit smaller though than what I've seen from other vehicles in this segment, so you might need to do a double take when you are shifting lanes. Then when it comes to rear vision, you can see everything behind you. The rear headrests are not that aggressive at all. So I think that when it comes to just the overall visibility you have here to work with, very nice. That is pretty nice. The paddle shifters really help with the engagement and the sports car feel behind the wheel. But also, and I'm not really fully understanding why so many journalists are critical of the 6-speed rather than the 8-speed in the rear wheel drive, because when you do put it in manual mode, it is pretty fun. And now, of course, again, I think a lot of people who are looking at this specific market and for cars in this price range, they're not looking for an M340i experience. They're probably not even looking for an Audi S4 experience. Now, in sport mode, the steering feel is nice and weighted. It's not lacking engagement at all. Also, it doesn't feel too sedated either, which is a bit surprising for a non-German sports sedan, because usually you'll get some cars with some lighter steering and it just doesn't feel all that great. But I gotta be honest, being behind the wheel of this car, it's a nice daily driver. Now, when it comes to the suspension for the IS 350, I think a lot of buyers who are specifically looking for a luxury sedan are going to love this car. So you have the aggressive exterior design, you have the nice 19-inch wheels, but that doesn't affect ride quality. Now, you can opt for a sports tune suspension, which probably would be more suitable for somebody who is looking for a more spirited drive on their daily commutes, especially on winding back roads. But I think that for most buyers that are just looking for straight-on luxury, they're gonna love this car because it's definitely speaking to them more than enthusiasts. Obviously, you can upgrade to the IS 500, which I think would probably be the better decision if you are somebody that's looking for more of that sports car feel. But you do get a decent amount of power on the low end, so you're not sitting there wondering, oh, am I going to be able to get on the highway pretty quickly and safely? I think this car is providing an adequate amount of power, because when you are comparing it to the German competitors or even non-German competitors that are powered by inline 4s or 4 cylinders, it's right in line with them when you look at the 0 to 60 times. I just think that what this car is providing is a sportier feel than the IS300, but not so aggressive where you're going to be on the edge of your seat. I still feel, just like I felt with the Infiniti Q50, that this is more of a grand tourer. That yeah, you have the aggressive exterior design, you have some of the sportier characteristics, but it's not a car that you're going to be taking out to the track, or a car that you're going to feel compelled to go 80, 90 miles an hour or really throw it around in corners. This is a sedan for somebody that's looking for an upgrade over a Camry or an Accord, but you get better power, but also you get better comfort as well. And I think that's where a lot of journalists get critical, and they're like, yeah, it does fall behind the M340i or the S4 or Mercedes-Benz C483. But as I've talked about earlier on with the Lexus IS 350, this isn't a competitor to the sportier variants in this segment. This is actually a tweener where it is a bit of an upgrade over the 4 cylinders in this market, but it still retains the comfort and the quality that you're looking for in this market for a car at around $48,000 to $50,000. So I do believe that when you are looking at a car in 2022 that is a bit sporty, that is comfortable, I think the Lexus IS is providing enough where it is adequate in this current market. Now, when it comes to the technology, that's where I really feel that the IS does need to see an improvement, especially with what we're experiencing with the new Lexus NX. I think if we got that for the IS, now we can start talking about this car being in the conversation with some of the German competitors or even some of the non-German competitors. But when you're comparing this to even an Acura TLX, Alfa Romeo Giulia, or even an Infiniti Q50S, I think this is right on with them. And compared to the Alfa Romeo Giulia, which I think would actually be a great one-on-one comparison, the biggest difference here is that you're not going to have the most aggressive seats, because if you are somebody that wants to throw their car around on the back roads, the Giulia is going to be more sufficient for that. But I don't necessarily think that for a lot of buyers that are just looking for luxury, more of the old school luxury market consumer, they're not going to like the Giulia. Whereas with the IS 350, it's providing enough comfort, it's providing enough sportiness where I think it's a good balance, where I think it's a great all-around car, but it's not going to be a standout in any particular way. I do think, though, that when compared to the Infiniti Q50S, the interior quality is just a bit better, where it feels more accommodating, it feels more comfortable on the interior, especially if you're going to be driving this car on a daily basis. And then compared to the Acura TLX, now I do love that car. I think it's a significant improvement compared to what we had seen in the past from Acura, but it's the size of a 5 Series. So this car is going to feel more nimble. The IS is going to feel more like a traditional compact sports sedan, whereas the TLX is going to be a bit boat-like. It's going to be more comparable to, say, a Cadillac CT5 and other cars of that size. So I think the Lexus IS, I believe, is just a good balance where it is agile in its way, it is comfortable, it is a bit sporty, but it's not going to be the car that you're going to be taking on the track, that you're going to really push to its limits. This car right here is an alternative to some of the other Japanese and maybe even the Korean options, such as the Stinger and the G70, where it's still comfortable, it's reliable, and I still feel it is enjoyable for 2022. My final impressions here for the Lexus IS 350 is that the ride quality and even the driving environment really stand out to me, even though we don't have all the bells and whistles or the most up-to-date technology. This car just feels really nice. I think for buyers that are not looking for the most tech-filled cabin or the tech-filled experience, and they're just looking for a car that is luxurious, that is comfortable, that is something that they can hop into and just enjoy on a long road trip, that's where the IS 350 really slots into place. This car, I just think it needs a few minor tweaks. Give us the interior that we're seeing in the NX, and I believe that this is one of the best cars in this segment with that update. That's all this car is missing. When it comes to the exterior, I love it. It really looks classy and aggressive, and it definitely draws your attention. When it comes to the comfort, the seating, it just feels really nice. And that's why, as I walk away from this car today, it is a grand tour, and that's why I think it is overlooked by a lot of journalists, maybe even some consumers. But being somebody that looks at the sales figures, this car had its best year since 2018, and I think there's a few good reasons why that is. It's interior comfort, it's the reliability, it's the exterior design, but also I think it's a car that's suitable for buyers that are not looking for all that technology that we're now seeing make its way into this segment. It's an old school feel, and I think that's why a lot of buyers are still gravitated toward this car. Now, of course, I think if you are looking for a sportier experience, go with the IS500 or go with the rear-wheel drive for the IS350. But if you're just looking for a car that feels really great on the road, it's a car you don't really want to leave at all. I actually don't want to give the keys back just when it comes to the ride quality. Then I think this car is going to be perfect for you. So in closing, what are my final thoughts for the 2022 Lexus IS 350 F Sport? Well, let's first start off with what does need to change, and that is the technology and also the interior layout, because it is showing its age, and the IS is built on an older platform. So that all makes sense. But we do need a more in-depth user interface. We also need a bigger digital gauge cluster. However, I think a lot of buyers looking at purchasing an IS today in 2022 are going to find this car being more than adequate, because you will have physical buttons and dials for your climate control settings and your volume and tuning knobs. Also, the way this dashboard flows into the center console is really nice, and also it gives you more of a fighter jet-like feel. It feels more like a cockpit in here. But if you are the type of buyer that's looking for a luxury sedan with a taste of sportiness, you are going to love this sedan. You're going to love the fact that everything is within arm's reach, that it is that old school traditional layout. But when it comes to ride quality and driving dynamics, I think the IS350 is overlooked. It has received so much criticism, and I don't really understand why. Because even though you're going to want to go with the 8-speed automatic transmission with the rear-wheel drive, the 6-speed is still more than adequate. It's still perfect for daily driving and more of that laid-back driving experience. Where if you're the type of person that is going on longer road trips, that's maybe has a longer commute to work, this car is so comfortable. The way the seating position is, the bolstering, and even the performance, it's not that bad. And as I've talked about, this car is a tweener, where it's not an M340i competitor. It's not an Audi S4 competitor. It's a car that's priced at around $48,000 to start, where it will go up against other sedans that are powered by 4 cylinders. We're talking a 330i, Audi A4, Mercedes-Benz C300. And I think that with the V6, this car is a bit more engaging. Everyone wants to talk about that with some of the competitors, that the handling is a bit more crisp and smooth. In sport mode, though, with the IS350, it's nice and tight and direct. It does give you some feedback, and I do like that. Very surprised for a Japanese sports sedan. But really, though, I think overall, yes, it does need to be updated. There are some things that do need to be changed. But when you look at the ride quality, the comfort that you have here, even with the 19-inch wheels, and then when you look at just the way this car looks from the exterior, and also I think even some of the features you have here at around $46,000, $47,000, I still think this car is providing a good amount of value, and that's why in 2021 it had one of its best years since 2018. And I think buyers are really responding to that. They like the exterior design, they like the interior layout, they love the comfort aspect of this car, and really I think Lexus understands their buyers where they're looking for that traditional layout, where a lot of their buyers are coming from Toyotas and Hondas, and that's why I think the Lexus IS is suitable for their driving style and also what they're looking for in a car. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.